Russia a penny away from returns. Who's the heir apparent?
Oh, if we were to take him away? That's a good question. We'll have to decide that during training camp. I mean, obviously, Juwan Washington had one of the touchdowns at Wyoming, and had a big return at Northern Illinois. So I think we can find a few guys to man that if something were to happen and Rashad wasn't back there. I mean, they can always kick it away from Rashad too, which some have tried, and thus Juwan getting some production last year.
Bobby, if you were to have Rashad out there and you know they're essentially going to try to kick it away, although Wyoming didn't. But does it help you scheme a little bit in some ways, knowing that it's going to go to one side pretty much, and then you can do something with that?
Yeah, it's interesting a little bit. I mean, without getting too in-depth into the X's and O's of it, people have changed a little bit in their kickoff coverage, where a lot of people are putting the ball one particular place all the time and then covering it so their guys know where it's going, and it's pretty much uniform throughout the season. So, you know, by putting Rashad in that spot, sometimes we make him try to beat us left-handed a little bit, which, you know, that's an advantage, certainly. And then, you know, as far as kind of responding a little bit to the Wyoming comment would be that, you know, I think those guys probably counted on him at 7,000 feet. They kind of counted on him getting it out. And if he mishits it, then you got to cover. So, you know, odds are he's going to get it out, and he did a couple of times. And our guys on that team did a nice job making him pay. So.
Talk about the new punter at all? Have you seen much of him, and what do you think of him?
You know, it's way early to really say much, other than we've been out there for 2 days now, and he's hit the ball well. Brandon's he's a good prospect, and you know, we'll look forward to the next. I mean, we've got a lot of practices between now and game time, and I'm looking forward to having those days to put some pressure on him and see how he responds, and getting him accustomed to that. And it's more about, not that I don't think he'll respond well, it's more about getting him the plays in practice to get him game ready.
Can his Australian rules football background be incorporated in some way?
Yeah, sure. How much or what exactly we'll do, we've got to get him out there and get hands-on and see what we think of it. But that's always a weapon, and we have that, you know, systematically we have the ability to do that. So we can move the launch point a little bit, and, you know, we'll have to see how August goes.
Do you think more of the Australians can become more and more of a trend as a punter, the way, say, soccer South Africa was in the 60s?
Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. Actually, I hadn't thought of it. It's become a trend. There's a lot of Australian lads up here that are doing it. Some of them with a great deal of success, and there's certain pockets where they're already into their second round of it. Utah being one, those guys have done a really nice job. You know, obviously in San Diego we're familiar with it with the Chargers, and so I think that's a trend. There's several groups of coaches in Australia that have a background in American football that are, you know, they're kind of handpicking some of those guys and training them with the hopes that they can come over and get an education and participate. So I think you're probably going to see more of it. I don't think they've got exclusive right to the punting game, but there's maybe an inordinate percentage of those guys that are doing the punting jobs at Division I schools or in college football in our country, because they don't have football. You know, so it's kind of a strange development.
Do they bring something in the way they punt it that teams are going to have to start reacting to and really make a difference?
Well, you remember the kid from Hawaii a couple of years ago, kick it with both feet. I mean, when you look at it, the Australian rules football, those kids, I mean, you see them, they're this big. You know, from the time 5 or 6 years old, they're running around and kicking a somewhat football-shaped object with both feet, and that adds a dimension to it. So, and then they're pretty good athletes. So you've got I mean, the kid from Hawaii was a great example. I mean, he'd take off and run, and he'd kick with either foot, and it created some headaches. He may have been the best offensive player on their team because he was a pretty good wide receiver too. So.
What do you have to do with the other 10 guys to adjust for a guy who's that person?
Well, I mean, you get into philosophy of how you're going to approach it. I mean, you probably go one way or the other. You either play safe and just keep your defense out there, which a lot of people did against Hawaii, or you decide you're going to line up and pressure him and get after him a little bit. And I think it's probably one or the other. Sir?
You had such success in the Big Sky Conference, and then obviously the tough times you had after that. What's the intangible you've learned under Rock? Is there something that's opened your eyes and said, wow, I never thought of that?
Well, it's been fun getting back to winning games and being a part of that. And from a personal standpoint, I see eye to eye with Coach Long on virtually everything. So just getting back to reinforcement that core beliefs that I've held for a long time are still work and still apply. I think that's been probably the best byproduct of it. Sometimes the football gods or karma comes around. You get to win every game, then you don't get to win many. It's the way it goes. It's cyclical. Going to a bowl game at UNLV was sort of uncharted territory. It had been almost 15 years, so it wasn't all gloom and doom there. We just would have liked to have won a few more. Go ahead.
Yes, with John Barron, at least last year, having a touchback about 1 every 3 kickoffs, your special teams players are sometimes the ones who are just coming from the scout team. So is the fact that the kickoff coverage team might not actually have to do anything, does that give that extra time to prepare for when there is a critical situation?
No, you have to give due diligence to each phase. We'd like to kick it out more often, maybe than we do. I think that as John gets older, stronger, spends more time in the weight room, he'll kick it off into the end zone more. But as was evidenced or referenced a little bit ago here, you better go cover those kicks and be ready, because if it's not an exact, you can't just count on it being out, most guys, so you better cover it. So you have to spend time on it.
You talk about Christian Chapman, how much he's improved in his throwing the line.
Well, that really doesn't fall under my area of oversight. Obviously I know more from a personal standpoint than I don't watch him much on the field. So I think he's a great kid, and I'm glad we've got him, and that's probably a question better for somebody else.
How does Barron's mentality contribute to his success?
It's funny. He 2 years ago when he was the backup, he really didn't hit the ball well, and I just flat thought he struggled and was kind of like, I'm glad we aren't having to play him right now. And then last year, when the pressure went on and he had to be the guy and had to produce, obviously played really well. And I think that speaks a lot to his competitiveness, knowing that he was the guy and the team was counting on him, and he came through. So, I think the fact that he did that during training camp and it carried over through the season, he had a great year. Obviously our hope is that'll continue. But I think mentally speaking, he's pretty mentally tough and understands that his function on the team, scores points and sets up field position, and I think he embraces that, and he kind of has the ability to answer the bell.
He seems to be a guy too who involves himself in the team. That he's not a guy who there are probably some kickers who are used to standing in the corner. That's where they're comfortable, and so they go do it. He's not that guy. He's the guy hanging out with Christians.
Right, and I think part of that's John Barron's personality, but I think part of that is our head coach, and I 100% agree with the philosophy of those guys are football players first and kickers second, so they're immersed in the team. They lift with the team, they condition with the team. We cover with 11 both punt and kicks, so those guys learn how to tackle. So we try to make them football players, and I think that that's productive because there's going to come a time where he doesn't make a kick, and we don't want him being the extrovert over there that that dang guy lost the game for us. It's no different than a guy dropping a pass or throwing an interception or something. We're going to rally around him, and it's a lot easier to rally around a guy that you feel is in the trenches with you.
What do you look for the most in a special teams guy? I mean, what does he need to have?
Yeah, it's similar to what makes good out-of-the-box linebackers or safeties or corners. In terms, they've got to be able to make plays in space. They've got to exhibit some aggressiveness and want to. And then you've got to have guys that are willing to detail their work and make whatever their function is important. So if the guys in our room can embrace the idea that, I'm doing this because I'm the one that's best on this team out of 105 guys to do it, then it becomes important to them. So we try to make sure that that's emphasized. It's not extra work. It's a bonus play that I actually get to get out there, and it's competitive to get on the field in college football. I don't think that generally speaking, people understand how big a deal it is to play one play in college football. I mean, we focus in on the Heisman Trophy candidate who's out there every play. Well, for the other 104 guys, it's a big deal to earn a play in a game. And so we try to continue to emphasize that and make it a big deal that you actually get out there and get to represent your team and maybe help us win a game.
Has the mentality changed through the years where is it a lot more special now than it used to be?
I do. I believe that to be true. I think that, I don't want to act like some old dude, but I'm kind of getting to be one. And when I first started, there was a niche there where you could find an advantage if you just gave it some emphasis and maybe schemed it and were ahead of the game. And over the years, I think it's evolved to where you flip on the tape on Sundays and you don't see a bunch of holes in other people's scheme. They're coaching it. They're spending time on it. I remember when the first time I put a playbook together, it was sort of foreign to actually have a special teams playbook, and now that's obviously commonplace.
Is your sales pitch to your kids that the one play, that one possession, the block kick, block field goal, 51-yard return changes the whole chemistry of a game? Can you sales pitch them that?
Oh yeah, every play counts, and we can show evidence of that throughout history in college football where it counts. Is like, we used to do when I was at Colorado. We used to show the start of the year. We'd show our defense, hey, Colorado won a national championship game because they blocked a PAT in the first quarter. They won by 1 point over Notre Dame. So. There's evidence of it, and in this day and age, guys like to see video of it because they're used to seeing video of everything. But so we try to show that.